Hey everybody, I'm attorney Kyle Kaufman here at HKK Law Offices. In this video today, we're going to talk about a really interesting thing. It's the issue of the child tax credit, child tax exemption, how that applies to you, and how as lawyers we help people. Key things to talk about today. We're going to talk about what is it, how can you use it, how does it affect you, and finally wait around to the end because I'm going to tell you at the end what happens when somebody claims your child and how you fix that situation. All right, folks, so let's get into it. What is a child tax credit, child tax exemption, all right? So first off, if you're an intact family, and what I mean by that is you're married, you claim a child on your tax return and the government gives you a child tax credit for that. I'm not going to get into the issues today of how much that is. That's something you want to take to an accountant and talk about as to your particular situation and how much money you make and how that applies to you and your kids in terms of the amount of the credit. But what I can tell you is that in court actions, whether it's in a divorce proceeding or post-divorce, it could be in a paternity action, the issue comes up of who gets to claim the child or the children, right? So for this video, I'm just going to refer to the child rather than children. So who gets the claim? Well, it could be, it's going to be one parent in each year, right? You both can't split it, right? So it's going to go, the child is going to be claimed as a credit exemption on one person's tax return. And you're going to get some money back from that, which is great. So parents oftentimes say, hey, I would like that. The other parent says, I want it. How do we divide that up? Now, the IRS has specific rules about who is a qualifying child. And then as the taxpayer and the person preparing the return, who can actually claim the child. So the IRS rules are one thing, and then we have court orders, which are a different thing, okay? So let me break that down. A lot of people come to me and they say, well, Kyle, look, this is a qualifying child. Like, I have this child more than half of the time, so I get to claim the child, right? And then we look at if they already have an existing order, what the order says. And a lot of times court orders will say that the child exemption and credit gets alternated annually, meaning in one year maybe the mother has it, the next year the father has it, okay? And sometimes people say, well, that's not fair, and the IRS rules say that I get to claim because I have the child more, so I'm going to ignore the court order. That's not the right thing to do, at least in the sense of from the legal community and what your order requires you to do, okay? So let me zoom out here, back up again, just to say in a divorce action, if you haven't been divorced yet, what we're talking about is in future years, how the child is going to be claimed. Should it be alternated? If there is more than one child, do we divide those up? Those are all things that a lawyer can talk to you about, and you want to have part of your divorce judgment, divorce decree. In a paternity action, a non-marital child, you're going to have orders there as well that indicate who can claim the child, right? So, like I said, typically what courts will do, generally speaking here, this isn't legal advice, but you'll see this often, is that we alternate use of that year to year, or if there's two children, one parent will get one child, the other parent gets the other child, and as the older child phases out from being able to be claimed, then you'd alternate the last child left over, okay? Now, there's some also rules to that though too, right? So if you have one parent, let's say that's paying child support, okay? And it's their year to claim the child and get that child tax credit, use of the exemption. Is it fair? How do we handle that? So first off, the person paying child support to the other parent has to be current in their child support in that particular year. So if we're talking about the year 2021, for example, the payor, the person that pays child support to the other parent, has to have made their child support payments on time each and every month and have and not be behind essentially, okay, for that year. If that's the case for that year, and in the the odd year, the 2021 year, then that person can actually then go ahead and they meet the standard and can claim the child if the order allows them to do that, all right? But in situations sometimes where the parent isn't paying the child support and is behind in what we call arrears, then that presents a problem. and that person who normally by the court order would have been allowed to claim the child may not be able to do so. Okay, again, not legal advice. You have to check your orders on that and what was said in your particular case, but you want to look out for these things and think about these things as you're drafting these orders, putting them together, talking to your lawyer about what you want. Okay, so that's really important. The other wrinkle in all this is because of the pandemic, right, we had some government relief. And so over the last few years, we've had these relief funds, the stimulus funds, and that's been an issue as to how that money is used and who got it and which parent got it and how do we get compensated for that. So we're seeing a lot of that. You really need to call your lawyer and talk about your specific situations. There are remedies out there for you if you feel like, hey, I should have received some of those funds and I didn't get that. So please talk to a lawyer about that. The early child tax credits that rolled out this year was another new thing, and it was still somewhat uncertain. Again, you need to talk to a lawyer about that. Have a one-on-one meeting about your particular situation to find out how you can recoup what you didn't get, or if you did get it and you have to give it up, how that's going to work, okay? It's an important thing, and you should really talk to a lawyer about that. It is important to learn what your rights are there. Now, I promised you at the end of this video I would talk to you about what you would do, or the situation when you go to file your return and it gets rejected because somebody else has already claimed your child, all right? That happens to a lot of people. And they come to me and they say, hey, it was my year to claim, here's my order, and I filed it, it was rejected, I think the other parent claimed, what do I do? Am I just out? How can they do that, all right? So there's different ways that we can go and make sure that this wrong is righted, right? So the first is obviously to ask the other parent, did you do this? And ask them to answer that question, put them to the test, and that's what I would tell my clients to do and see what the response is, okay? There's really a couple ways to work it out then. Number one, you can ask the parent who wrongly claimed the child to compensate you for what you would have got. That's one way to resolve it. The other way to resolve it is to have the parent that claimed wrongly file an amended return removing the child, which would then allow you to file a claim adding the child. If that doesn't work, in other words, two parents can't cooperate and come to a resolution themselves, then you do need the court to get involved, okay? We would bring a motion for contempt alleging that the other parent had wrongfully claimed the child, and bring that matter to the attention of the court and have a hearing on that issue, and then the court would grant you relief. Obviously, you'd have to prove up your case, and then the court would order the other parent who wrongly claimed to take certain actions to remedy that situation and make sure that you're compensated and back to the position you were in before the action started. Now, in contempt actions, people say, man, that's going to cost me a lot of time and money, and we certainly appreciate that and understand that. So when we bring these motions for contempt, we always ask that the court compensate us, I should say compensate you for all of your losses that would be related to that type of court action. So court costs, filing fees, actual attorney's fees. And what we do is we would tell the other wrongful party ahead of time that that's what we intended to do. So we'd give them an opportunity to comply, whether they're working with an attorney or not. Notice that person that there's a problem, ask them to correct it, and if they don't correct it in a sufficient amount of time, then we'd bring a court action to ask the court to step in and provide relief. All right, folks, so those are a few things that I can tell you about the child tax credit, child tax exemption. I hope you did find it helpful. We'd really love you to look down below. You'll see that comment section. Put some comments in there, your thoughts on this. Tell me what else you'd like to know about us as a law firm or issues in the law. We're happy to provide some content here. Make sure to like this video and subscribe. We'll see you next time. Thank you for watching.